Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and everybody calls me Teacher M, and I'm actually a founder of an English boutique studio in Singapore. I'm very happy to be here to share a tip or two with you about composition writing. I think for a lot of you, composition writing may be something that's a little bit scary. It can be a little bit daunting. You may have great ideas, but you don't know how to translate them into a good piece of work. Okay, you may enjoy reading, you may be a really avid reader, but similarly, you don't know how to use the beautiful ideas you come across in your storybooks and transfer that to your writing too. So today I just want to focus on one thing which I find very, very important, something that I've taught all my own students as well. It's basically to get inspired. And how do we get inspired? You may ask. Basically, there are many, many sources of inspiration. They're all around you. And I want you to pay close attention to everything really that's around you. But for today, I will focus on one thing, which is one of my favorite really. We're going to look into poetry. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you have come across or you have read any poetry before, but if you have, this may be a good time for you to pick it up all over again and relook it, and use a fresh pair of eyes to look at it and read it again. Okay, so let me just share my screen with you. Okay, here we go. All right, so let me just do this like that. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, inspiration is all around us. We can get inspiration from the news that we read. We can get inspiration from the books that we read, poems that we read, shows that we watch, movies that we come across, music that we listen to. Why? Because the lyrics are very much like novels. They tell the story most of the time. Okay, you can also get inspired by the people around you, people whom you see on a day-to-day basis. It could be people whom you come across just once and you never meet them again. Okay, or you could also be inspired by a folk tale or even a fairy tale. These are stories that have been passed down from generation to generation, and they can be very inspiring. All right, now let's go down. So, like I was saying earlier, I would like to focus a little bit more on poetry today. So I have picked a poem that has really spoken to me. It's a poem written by a migrant worker. Here you go. This is his name. Okay, he is an award-winning poet, editor, journalist, and well, he wears a lot of hats basically. Okay, and this is his poem. All right, over here, I'll read part of it to you. They are afraid that their loved ones at home might get affected with COVID. What if they have become carriers in a faraway land? They are afraid of huddling together in a single room. The room is stuffy, with two ceiling fans working overtime. The warm breath suffocates as if the fans are weeping. They are crying for help, for someone to save them. Okay, so essentially, it's a very heartwarming poem. It's real. It's very telling of the situation that a lot of migrant workers are actually experiencing. Okay, and it's very relevant because of what's happening in our very own country today with COVID. Okay, so what we do is that once we read a poem like that, there's of course, like I said, based on someone's personal experiences. We can take that as a source of inspiration, and we use it to do, first of all, step number one over here would be to do this what I call a brain dump. So what is a brain dump, you may be wondering? It is basically the act of dumping all the contents of your mind onto paper. So some people prefer to do it in like a mind map or word web form. Okay, so you can just put like that poem. Okay, and you're just gonna branch out, okay, any word or phrase that comes to mind. So you can put maybe, for example, sad, for example, worrying, for example, anxiety, for example, of course, migrant workers, maybe bad situation, maybe, let's see, fear. Okay, all right, so something like that. Of course, there's no right or wrong. At this stage, when you do a brain dump, anything goes really. Anything that comes to your mind, you put it down. All right, and then once you're done with that, take your time to do the previous step, of course. You would plan a story using one or more of the 5 Ws and 1 H. So I think by this point at primary 5 and primary 6, you should be quite familiar with the 5 Ws and 1H. I'm sure your school teachers would have mentioned that at some point. So just a quick recap, 5 Ws and 1H will refer to the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay, so what to do, or what I personally recommend, would be to use a story mountain. Okay, so you would have the introduction, you have the rising action here, and on top you have the climax. Going down, you have the falling action, and finally you have the conclusion. Okay, so it's kind of like climbing a mountain, reaching the peak of it, and then going down. Okay, and what you do is that you start planning it out. A story, basically, based on this poem that you have read. Okay, so you plan it out here, going up, down, and here. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. All right, you can just pause the video in the meantime. Okay. Okay, now once you're done with that, very good. Okay, we will go on to read an example of a student response. So her name is Tara. She loves writing. Okay, and this is something that she came up with. It's not even the full story. It's actually just the start of it. So I'll read it to you as well. Roger stared at the whirring ceiling fans above him. It was the same thing he had noticed when he came to Singapore 7 years ago. He began counting down the hours till when he could leave this dirty prison. He thought of day one, when he first arrived at the dormitory. He was expected to sleep on the thin layer of cardboard, beneath him cold metal bars. After a day's work, they did nothing to soothe his aching back. 2 fans were supposed to provide wind for the 20 living in the small room. Yet most of the wind they received were from the movement of the cranes outside their window. They were known as foreign workers, as if they were migrants, singling them out from the rest of the population, as if they didn't belong. Rogers closed his eyes. He started seeing visions in his mind. He saw 7 years ago, Singapore 7 years ago, the grey and yellow HDBs, the Singapore Zoo, many hawker centers. Then he saw the city grow more vibrant in not only flora and fauna, but in people and buildings too. More intimidating skyscrapers rising and reaching for the clouds. Tourist attractions appearing, frivolous shops and places. We don't have enough space here, yet they can still think about all these luxuries. I came here to earn money, to support my family, but I can hardly support myself. Just then, the door opened, breaking Vajesha's thoughts. It was the boss of their construction company. All right, so that was actually, like I said, the start of a student's writing. It's very beautifully written, and it's written from the perspective of a migrant worker. She has taken the liberty to give him a name, Rajesh. It's not his real name, of course, and it's beautiful because it's very real. It's very telling of today's situation at the migrant workers' dormitories. Okay, so something like that would be something quite fun for you to do as well. You take a piece of poetry, something that appeals to you, something that you feel like, oh, it's beautifully written, and you break it apart first of all, like I said earlier too. Okay, you do a brain dump, and then you plan out a story inspired by the piece of poetry, and then you start writing. Okay, my tip here at this point is that you should just start. Okay, you can always edit your work to make it even better later. Okay, but never be afraid to start writing. Okay, all right, I hope this helped. Bye bye.